Welcome to the T-Row Show. This is your host, Keith, Tony, and Stu. Say hello, guys.
Hello, everyone.
Good afternoon.
We've got a couple of guests. We got John and David on.
Welcome, guys.
Hello.
And we got John Folks on. And we're going to be talking about a lot of things today, and it's kind of difficult to get this across, and we're going to do the best we possibly can because there's a lot of confusion out there, and it's a mess. So what we have to do is we have to start in a place where people are normally used to, which is dealing with their perceived constitution, who that actually applies to, what really happens, what goes on, why you believe there's a constitution in place, and all of a sudden you go to courts and there's not there. It's just all confusing. Everybody just doesn't understand. And you think you're fighting a revolution, and you're really not. There's this big theory about before 1868 there was a de jure government, and then after 1868 there was a municipal corporation, that it was illegal, and blah blah blah. It goes on and on and on. When absolutely none of it is true. That we can find. We can't find any evidence that any of it is true. So we're gonna dive into it today, and we'll show you what we've got. You can make your own decision. This is going to be a video rather than an audio today, so people can see it for themselves, and we're not just reading it out of thin air. And we're going to be going over a case, and we're going to show why there's some people in Colorado that are in really basic deep trouble. And we're going to show why they're going to go to jail, and why they get into the messes that they get into, which has become a real problem in this country. And we're going to try to solve that problem. So that being said, we're going to go ahead and share screens. And we're going to show here. I'll go ahead and do this. I've got a couple of different screens that I can be showing. This is dealing with the 11th Amendment and all that. All right, here's compact theory. Okay, there was a compact theory. Is why when the Southern states seceded in 1860 to 61, they relied on the compact theory to justify secession. The Southern states argued that the Northern states had violated the compact by undermining and attacking the institution of slavery and slaveholders' property rights in their slaves. It said the Southern states stated that they therefore were justified in withdrawing from the compact among the states. Listen to this carefully. It says, United States Supreme Court has rejected the idea that the Constitution is a compact among the states. Rather, the court has stated that the Constitution was established directly by the people of the United States, not by the states. Now, that's extremely significant in the way that people think, and the point of view that people have of the country, because they believe that the 10th Amendment, and they believe in all these things, protect the states, and that the federals should have to go through the states because it's a compact with them. They shouldn't be touching the people, and blah 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 blah. They're about 30% right, but it's based on your point of view. So we're going to try to change that point of view a little bit so people understand where this is coming from. It says one of the Supreme Court's first significant decisions, this is Chisholm versus Georgia. In 1793, Chief Justice John Jay stated the Constitution was established directly by the people. Now, let's stop right there. Which people? That's the whole thing. He didn't specify which people.
How convenient.
Jay noted that the language of the preamble of the Constitution, which says the Constitution was ordained and established by we the people, and stated here we see the people acting as sovereigns of the whole country. And in the language of sovereignty, establishing a constitution by which it was their will that the state government should be bound. Think about that for a minute. You have all the people within the states that created and put together and established the Articles of Confederation, which is a compact of the states. They did it through their delegates. Then they turn around just 180 and say people acting as sovereigns of the whole country, and in the language of sovereignty, establishing a constitution by which it was their will that the state government should be bound. Now, to me, in that particular statement, you're stating that somebody was acting as a sovereign and binding the states, of which the state independence created the national government. So why this big fear of state governments in that they should be bound, when those states were the ones that created the Articles of Confederation? It's not, something's not jiving there. So what's happening is that people not really understanding what's being said. Now, if we go over to the, let's go here. Okay, here's the Constitution of the United States. We, the people of the United States, okay? It didn't say these United States. So that's not talking about the states. That's not talking about the independent states in the Union. That's not what that's saying.
It says, we the people of the United States.
That's a noun instead of a adjective explaining, or a plural. A plural, I guess, I don't know if it's a plural adjective, I guess you could call it, or whatever. But it should be, in other words, if it was talking about the people in California, it would have said these United States.
Right.
That's the point I'm trying to make here.
Yep. Agree with you.
Yeah, it would say
And once
these United States. Go ahead.
Yeah. And once you understand that, then that paragraph becomes very clear. We, the people of the United States. It's a specific populace that is represented by we.
Right, which means they separated these United States into one United States, making it a noun. They separated it. So these people here are not talking about people in Colorado. They're not talking about people in Utah. These are a particular people. Number one, it was a particular person, place, or thing because it was a capitalized P. It was a pronoun. And it's this way everywhere. Although it's the same thing. In order to form a more perfect union, well, how can it be more perfect? It's either perfect or it's not. So they were saying, well, this is perfect, but we're going to make it more perfect. Excuse me? This is blue. We're going to make it more blue. How can you make it more blue? It's either blue or it isn't. Then people come back, well, it's not actually absolutes. Come on, really? A cloud is a cloud. That's just the way it operates, okay? A car is a car. Grass is grass. Tree is a tree. An ocean is an ocean. You can't make it a more perfect ocean or a more of an ocean. It doesn't work that way. Now, and then it comes down to ourselves and our posterity to ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Now, we're going to explain what this is here in a minute. Okay, what this entity is, because people believe, I mean, wholeheartedly, that this was their government, this was their republic, and man, you can't talk them out of it. It's unbelievable. It's like a cult to a point. You can't, just if you show them, they'll come in, and if you say, we the people of the United States, well, it was just a misnomer. It meant these United States. It was us. It's ours. It's ours. It's, you know, that's what they do. It's like little kids. That really belongs to us. We're the sovereign people. Blah, 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 blah. And it's become almost a cult thing to where you just can't talk to them. They get nuts. They get violent. And When you have to get violent like that, it means you're upholding a lie. The truth doesn't require violence to get it across. It just requires affirming it. That's it.
Yeah, we touched on that a few shows ago, probably 5 or 6 actually, but about how the Constitution is probably among the most
misunderstood documents on the planet,
and yet feverishly promoted. You know?
Oh yeah, they've made a lot of money on this, and we're going to show you why it's promoted. We're going to get into that today. We're going to show you exactly why it's promoted as much as it actually is. Okay, and then they say, well, in the new one it says Constitution of the United States. And no, they just all they did was they amended it a little bit, but it still had nothing to do with you. That's the whole point. It had nothing to do with you in the states. Okay, this was a certain group of people that did this. Okay, now what if I were to say that this Constitution of the United States, right here, they go, well, that's the wrong one. It's Constitution for the United States. Just be quiet for a minute, because I know that that's what they're going to come up with. Now, what if we were to tell you that this was actually a government? This is, in fact, an actual government. And what if we were to tell you that this was actually a charter right here? The Constitution for the United States of America was a charter. Now, here's the whole deal. And that is one thing I forgot to get. And I got it fairly quickly. Okay, now what is the difference? It says typically a constitution defines the organization of a government or governing entity, whereas a charter defines the organization of a corporation association. So when I say charter, I mean organization of a corporation or association. And when I say constitution, it defines the organization of a government or governing entity. Okay, now we have to define where is the United States. And then everybody says, well, it's Virginia, Virgin Islands and blah, 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 Puerto Rico and all that. Okay, good to go. Now, where does it emanate from? Where's its capital? Where's its headquarters? Okay, so typically a constitution defines the organization of a government or governing entity, whereas a charter defines the organization of a corporation association. Now, we go back here and we say, okay, what if this was an actual government right here, and then this was a charter? Because apparently these guys here established this right here, the Constitution for the United States of America. Now, they don't have the authority, if it's an individual or a certain group of people, they don't have the authority to establish a constitution for a whole country. So the only authority they would have is to establish a chartered and or corporation. It's how you see this and how you look at this, okay? Now, that being the case, I'm going to go and stop sharing, and if you could show everyone, Stu, where the United States is. And that would be the address.
Certainly.
Okay.
Stand by. Screen share should be showing up anytime now.
There it is. Okay.
So we've got up in the upper left-hand corner, Bank New York Mellon. Contact page right from their site. And if you scroll down, office location, corporate headquarters, 225 Liberty Street, New York, New York, United States.
Okay. So that's the United States, right? Okay. Now, if you guys look at the map or look at a map, the Bank of New York.
One.
Okay, perfect.
Here it is. Is it showing up?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's your 225 Liberty Street, and I'll zoom in just a little bit. Whoops, go the other direction. But you can see here, Federal Reserve is right here. Stock Exchange is right here. World Trade Center. So Lower Manhattan, right here, Manhattan Island.
There's City
Hotspot.
Hall. Yeah.
Yep.
Go ahead and zoom out. Go ahead and zoom all the way out so people see what the United States is. There it is right there. Stop right there. Okay. There's Upper Manhattan, Lower Manhattan. It's called an island. That's the United States.
Right here.
Okay, folks. Now, the United States started out as under the Charter of the Patroons, under the Netherlands king. Back in that time, it was chartered by the Netherlands. The Dutch are the people. We the people, that's the Dutch. Nobody else. That's why they only allowed white people, white males, to be citizens of the United States. Because why? Because the Dutch are white. They're also supremacist. They believe that, you know, they're the greatest thing since sliced bread, okay? They have always been supremacist. If you're not Dutch, you're nothing. That's how they are. That's the United States. That's we the people that they were talking about, and they created a charter called the United States of America in 1789. They did not like the fact that you had black people, white people, Chinese, and all these other folks, I can't remember all of them that were there, Latino, Spanish, and all that, were all within the Articles of Confederation and within the independent states, and they had all fought for their independence. Now, when people say, okay, go ahead and stop, we'll get the White House thing up in a minute, okay? And I'll show people that, okay, now, this is Manhattan Island. That's who they're talking about. And they established a charter called Constitution for the United States of America, which is nothing more than a private company from the Virginia Company. Now, here are the boundary stones. Jurisdiction of the United States. It didn't say it was the United States. These are the boundary stones. You can go to boundarystones.org, boundarystones.org, and it shows Washington, D.C. These are the boundary stones. Some of them are a lot older. And
I noticed it didn't say jurisdiction of United States of America.
That's
right.
It said
jurisdiction of United States.
And all these boundary stones are still there. They have gates around them, all that. Some of them you can read, some of them you can't, but they're still the same thing. Now, here's Virginia on one side. On the other side is United States, jurisdiction of the United States. And it just so happens to be a part of, here it is, jurisdiction of the United States, right there. It's just old. This has been the same since the beginning, folks. There's nothing new here. It's just people don't look. They don't they just assume what they're reading. Here it is, jurisdiction of the United States, right there. Okay? So that's the District of Columbia is the jurisdiction of Manhattan Island, the Dutch. They formed a charter called the United States of America, which most people say, that was our de jure republic. No, it wasn't. It was a company. You don't have to believe me. All you have to do is look at the Senate.gov site, written in 1787, ratified in 1788, in operation since 1789, the United States Constitution is the world's longest surviving written charter of government. charter of government. The government created a charter. It says, we the people affirmed. There's your upper and lower case. So it hasn't changed. Hasn't changed from this right here. Affirm that the government of the United States exists to serve its citizens. The supremacy of the people through their elected representatives. The supremacy of the people. Get it? Supremacy. I told you they were supremacists. Those are Dutch, folks. It has nothing to do with you. You're not, it's not your government. It's theirs. If it was yours, you would have record of an oath or affirmation of being a citizen of the United States. But since you're not, and you don't have any of those records, you're not a citizen of the United States. Then they'll go, what about the 14th Amendment? Read it. It says if you're born within the United States, where's the United States? Manhattan Island. Where's the jurisdiction of the United States? District of Columbia. But if you were born in Florida or Michigan or Colorado or California, then you were not born in the United States. And the 14th Amendment doesn't apply. You're not being sued by government. You're not being sued by the United States at any time. And we'll explain that here in just a little while. Now, Stu, if we can see the address of the District of Columbia and the White House.
Stand by.
You got it? All right, let's move on. Okay, so how many people are you?
Yeah, I've got it. Yeah, I've got it. I'm sorry. I'm losing track of my windows here. I'm a little confused, but I do have it. Just allow me to screen share here.
All right. Okay. There's the White House.
White House, 1600 Pennsylvania Ave, Northwest, Washington, D.C.
No United States. There's no United States in their address. Okay? Now, if you want to know where the United States of America is, that chartered company, go ahead and click OAS contact.
Organization of American States website, contact us. Reading here, it's kind of small print, 17th Street and Constitution Ave, Northwest, Washington, D.C., United States of America.
So that's where it ended up. That's where the charter is. That Constitution, that's where that charter ended up. The people of the United States created a world government with it, outside of any authority whatsoever, other than their own. That is what the Supreme Court is talking about. They're not talking about you got everybody else. They're only talking about the Dutch. And why do they talk about the Dutch? Because the Supreme Court belongs to the Dutch, who are still subjects of the King of the Netherlands. It was chartered there under the Charter of the Patroons. Now, we're not just making this up. This is on their website.
Yeah, this is an organization you can see here. I don't know if the URL is readable for the folks, but this is directly from their website.
OAS.org. Yeah.
Yep.
You go right to their website, look it up yourself. Okay? Now, go ahead and stop sharing. So, to specify, that's why the Bank of New York Mellon and the bankers get what? They get a bailout from who? All the residents of the states who happen to be what? They're slaves. You bail them out all the time. They cause a problem, you bail them out. You cause a problem, you bail them out. It's constant. They're just taking their money from their slaves. That's all they're doing. I don't know what else to say about that. I mean, how can you, we can tell people where this actually came from. Okay, how it all started, and the mess that everybody's in today. It all started here. It's called the Bar Treaty. And this was done in 1947. And okay, the International Court of Justice, folks, guess where that is? That's in The Hague. Where? Where's The Hague? The Netherlands. That's where you start connecting the dots. You start making a point. Okay? You connect dots from here, 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 and here. That's how it all works. Now, in the treaty, they wanted to create they will be elected by the General Assembly and the Security Council in the same manner as judges of the International Court of Justice. Wonder why? This is also recommended by our association, Private Membership Association. Okay? This all started with this treaty. They changed the Constitution of the United States of America, which was the charter of the Constitution of the United States, created by the Dutch and by under the authority of the Netherlands. Now remember, Trump went over to the Netherlands, and when he did, all of a sudden, when he came back, North Korea was being invaded. Think about it, guys. Look at the timing. Trump all of a sudden switches everything around, and the reason why he switched is because he got his marching orders. He got his marching orders, that's right, from the King of the Netherlands. He went over to the Netherlands, comes back, they're invading North Korea. Boom. All of a sudden, Syria's getting bombed. Just a complete flip. How did that happen? Then he's got to go to the UN, the United Nations, because in the 50s, the whole Constitution and everything was pledged to the UN under the Charter of the United Nations. Now, it was done without people's so-called authority. Okay? Now, the reason why it was done without your authority is because you didn't have any authority. They did it because the Dutch wanted it done. It was their constitution and their charter. So that's how it operates. And we're trying to explain this to people over and over, and they just don't get it. It's very difficult for them to understand it. This is called the Bar Treaty of 1947. It's called the American Bar Association. Now, this American Bar Association, here's the articles. Now, the high contracting parties formally condemn war and undertake their international relations not to resort to threat or use of force in any manner inconsistent with the provisions of the Charter of the United Nations or of this treaty. Now, as a consequence of the principles set forth in the preceding article, high contracting parties undertake to submit every controversy that may arise with methods and blah, 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 blah. The General Assembly or the Security Council of the United Nations, high contracting parties do this, high contracting parties do that, okay? Now, this particular treaty is very, very close to the OAS Charter, the Organization of American States, the one that Stu just showed you guys. The OAS Charter. It's a lot, they're about the same. The OAS is an agency of the United Nations. The Dutch did this. Now, what you need to do is to get out of their business. Quit trespassing on them, quit getting in their business, because you're fueling something that you're fueling a cause, which is a violation of their 11th Amendment. Okay? That's where the problem lies. Their 11th Amendment states the judicial power of the United States, now let's reread that, the judicial power of Manhattan Island, the judicial power of the Dutch shall not be construed to extend in any suit in law or equity, commenced or prosecuted against one of the United States. One of the United States. Oh, that's the same as these. Holy crap, look at that. One of the United States is the same as these United States. By citizens of another state. Or by citizens or subjects. Why would they mention subjects when everybody's supposed to be free? Of any foreign state. Look at that. Or by citizens or subjects of any foreign state. That's Manhattan Island. And these are the Dutch. They're the subjects of a foreign state. They're the bankers. Now, what does this mean for everyone? This means that the Dutch have no authority to come into the States and open up any courts whatsoever. They have no authority to offer bank loans or contract here. Why? Because they don't have any judicial power to enforce it. Since they don't have any judicial power to enforce it, what they do is they create these trespassing courts. Some of the states that are told that this is 11th Amendment jurisdiction, no matter what court comes up, number one, they don't have any judiciary in the states, period. They all know that. And it was it was adopted in the Chisholm versus Georgia statement. Some of the states will dismiss a case if you say this 11th Amendment violation. You just have to be able to explain it, that the Dutch people that are subjects of the foreign king do not have the authority to come in here and steal everybody's crap. All your labor, all your equity, everything. They don't have the authority to do that. They also don't have the authority to create a currency that is not, that their charter that they created does not recognize. So what are you left with? You were left with the Articles of Confederation that have been amended August 5th, 2015. And your original General Post Office.
Yeah, you should, if I could prompt you, you should walk through the currency real quick relative to the Constitution.
Right. They're not, all we have to say is they're not silver certificates. And if they're not silver certificates, they're not recognized. If it's not gold or silver, it's not recognized by that charter. Okay? So if it doesn't, if it's not written in their charter, the Dutch's charter, then it's not recognized. The Federal Reserve knows it's not recognized. They just went all hog wild because what they were trying to do is the Dutch were trying to find funding from everybody else to put together the New World Order. Because why? Because they're supremacists. They want to be the supreme people of Earth. That's it. They've always had that dream since they've existed. People blame it on the Jews. They blame it on this. They blame it on that. It's the I don't know. Hell, this goes all over the place. But that's all it is. They've had Dutch presidents before. So The whole thing is you're not being sued by the United States. The United States is not coming after you. Who's coming after you are the citizens of the United States on Manhattan Island that have no authority to do anything because they're subjects of a foreign state. Subjects of a foreign sovereign do not have the authority to come after people in another country.
Yeah, just like someone from France can't go and get an apartment in Japan and start going hog wild after citizens of Japan.
Exactly. Just like Muslims can't come over to another country and start suing for religious rights. It doesn't work that way. They can't start bringing their former religion. In order to become something else, they have to renounce the former. So a proper immigration for a Muslim is to renounce Islam and Muhammad and then come to another country. They can't bring their other country in because that's called an invasion. That's like people from France coming over here and saying, I want to be an American national. And if I don't renounce, and they don't renounce France, that's the way they do it. They don't renounce France or the government of France or anything like that. They come over here as a French, and then eventually that country becomes French. If you get enough of French people in one country, they'll turn it into France. That's France too.
A state within a state.
Yeah, you can't do that. It's fully against the law of nations. So let's get that clear.
Yeah, we should. I find that fascinating because it's so easy to understand when you say someone from Spain can't go to Japan and start wreaking havoc with their culture and blah blah blah. Yet it occurs here every single day.
Yeah, and people put up with it.
Yeah, and why is that? That's the $1 million question. Why is it tolerated?
Well, it ain't tolerated here.
No,
I'll tell you that right now.
But on their side of the fence,
right now, does this statement make sense? That John Jay stated the Constitution was established directly by the people. Jay noted the language of the preamble of the Constitution, which says that the Constitution was ordained and established by we the people, and stated, here we see the people acting as sovereigns of the whole country. Now, do you get it, guys? Everybody gets this? You're talking about now, these guys are acting as sovereigns of a whole country, basically stating the Dutch were acting like they were the sovereigns of everybody, but they're subjects to a foreign king. That's why it sounds ridiculous. He was making fun of them. And in the language of sovereignty, establishing a constitution by which it was their will that the state governments be bound. So their will is THEIR, meaning the Dutch's will to bound the state governments, which they had no authority to do under the law of nations. That's why we say it's illegal. And it states it right in their 11th Amendment. They don't have any judicial authority whatsoever. They don't even have a judiciary. But they pop up all these illegal courts. And who's helping them? Well, where's the charter of the judges? Oh, it's based in Roma, Italy. Pretty close to the Vatican. So now the Vatican's in violation of the law of nations. That's how it operates, guys. And this is what we're trying to tell people over and over. Stop doing this. Okay, and I'm going to show you why. Here you go. This is a federal action by people, and we're going to show you why they're going to jail. Okay? This is public record, and here it is. Oh, because they put the de jure United States District Court. Well, I'm sorry, the de jure United States District Court doesn't have any authority under the 11th Amendment, and neither does the District of Colorado. So this is what they do, and this is how screwed up people are. People of the United States of America. Okay, now we're talking about the United States of America. That's the original Confederacy right there. USA doesn't really have an established country code yet. And the Colorado state, unincorporated of sound mind. Okay, now, what's the name of the state? It's called State of Colorado. And the United States of America, unincorporated, hereinafter claimants, okay, and this record of the complaints of each of the following: United States Corporation, Duns number, blah, blah, blah. This was a charter of the patroons. This was a charter of the Dutch. This is their CEO right here. Federal Bureau of Investigations is a corporation, absolutely. Not the state of Colorado. The Dutch did not have the authority to bind the state of Colorado. I'm going to tell you why. The Constitution of the state of Colorado, this was their original name. You cannot change the name of a state. If you start calling it Colorado State, that's a state within a state, and it's illegal. You can't have a state within a state. So anything with a lowercase s in it, state, illegal state. Doesn't exist. This is their original constitution. This is when the state of Colorado was created. That's the name of the state. That's it. Just because the lawyers came in and turned it into a corporation on Dun and Bradstreet doesn't make it right, and it doesn't mean that you have the authority to start changing the name of the state to get away from them. You had to claim the state of Colorado as the original state and under the original constitution, as one of the people of Colorado. You don't let them just take your state, guys. So here's the federal action. So what do we got here? That's a violation of law of nations. Okay, they have not registered as a resident of the United States of America, nor do they have an oath and affirmation to the United States of America, nor do they have an oath and affirmation or a fidelity oath to the state of Colorado. Okay, so these people right now are in violation of the law of nations. That's the least of their problems. Okay, and then they go around, then they tried to change it around where they were going to come after them as defendants, going after federal and all this other stuff. And as detailed herein, each defendant exceeded his jurisdiction under color of law. What they're saying is they're trying to countersue, making the people that are coming after them the defendants. They're trying to switch it on them. By either directly or through an agent, both foreign or domestic, or in concert with another, did cause claimants to be unlawfully and forcibly carried away and imprisoned against his will without jurisdiction or cause. Well, I think they kind of had jurisdiction, guys, because this is what they did. They switched. For clarification of this action at law, the USA, or Continental, refers to an entity created by the Constitution for the United States of America. False. Didn't happen. So what do? They go right to the charter, make themselves a part of the charter of the Dutch, and governed under the common law. No, it's governed under the Dutch, as guaranteed by the Constitution for the United States of America. No, this was a charter of the Dutch. U.S. refers to the United States Federal Corporation. No, this is actually the Dutch government right here, that is bound by Manhattan Island. They can't go past their boundaries. Created by an act of Congress Oh, but created by the charter. Okay, so now the charter said act of Congress under this here, which was the charter. Now they don't have the authority to move their company anywhere. They don't have the authority to move their corporation anywhere. So now what did you just do? You violated the human rights of the Dutch. Now they don't have the right to contract or deal with their own business. So who's the problem here? Under the authority of Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 of the Constitution for the United States of America. Well, that was the charter, which limits said corporation to the District of Columbia. That's the only thing that's true.
Finally, we're in paragraph what? 3, page 2, page 3?
That's the only statement in here that was true. But it really, to the people that were here on this document, didn't really have the authority to say it or have it enforced because they're not a part of it. The former is that entity restricted by and governed by, that's so confusing. All this is gobbledygook. Really has nothing to do with anybody. And especially not these people. Then they move down and it goes down. Deprived claimants of said rights. And Colorado stole private property of claimants. Courts of the record in Colorado. Overthrow the government of the USA. No, that's their charter, guys. They didn't try to overthrow anything. That's the Dutch charter. And the citizens of the United States, in fact, do not have the authority to create a court in Colorado or sue anybody in Colorado, according to their 11th Amendment. So it's 25 pages of gobbledygook. Then they turn around and start trying to enforce the charter of the patroons and the charter of the Dutch against the Dutch in this whole document, claiming trespass. So they go in and they try to switch places with them and say, okay, now you're this and we're that. Then they have the charter of the United States. This is what they were doing. This is the charter of the United States et al. Versus their government on Manhattan Island, which was restricted to Manhattan Island. And they're saying that they're a part of the charter, these guys here in this case, that the 5 people in this case are part of that charter. They're not. They're not even close to it. They don't have anything to do with it. This charter and this federal enclave, or whatever you want to call it, was designed to protect the interest of the kings of Europe and their business, doing business here within the states. That's why they wanted the states bound. They wanted to bind the states to stop them from making laws that would hinder their business over here, the monarch's business here. Because every monarch is under the Netherlands, including Hawaii. They're still under the Netherlands. King. So claimants are not residents of the state of Colorado. Boom. There you go, guys. You're done. Your history. Now you're stateless. Washington, District of Columbia. Okay, they might not be residents of the District of Columbia. However, there is one statement that if you're not a resident of the state of Colorado, you are considered a resident of the District of Columbia. Or any territory of Washington, D.C. Claimants are domiciled in the Union member nation of Colorado. No such thing. Boom. There's only the state of Colorado because that's their original constitution. They never claimed their constitution. Their state constitutions. They created a state within a state. However, under the Republican form of government, in which powers of sovereignty are vested in the people and are exercised by the people, that's true and correct, but they don't have a Republican form of government in the state of Colorado because they never claimed the state of Colorado. And they never got their elections together, and they never did any of it. They just let the Dutch run the state with the United Nations, the Dutch United Nations Charter and United Nations agencies, because the people refused to run their own government. And most of them say, well, what form do I fill out? If you got to tell somebody what the form to fill out, I guess you pretty much need to be governed. You can't read and write. The people of Colorado, now these 5 folks or 6 folks are now talking about the people of Colorado, which they are not the people of Colorado because they didn't establish themselves as the people of Colorado. They have no foundation. Seeing that the representatives hired to serve the people were instead using fraud and deception, ruling over the people. No, they weren't. The government servants, masters, decided in the Colorado Assembly to form a grand jury as permitted by law. Okay? That none of this happened. We got some perjury going on here. The very least is perjury. The Colorado Assembly members participating in the National Assembly, we don't know where that came from, with people from across these United States, also decided to create a new law enforcement agency titled the Continental United States of America Marshals. They had no authority to do that. Or Continental Marshals had no authority to do that. This was warranted since none of the law enforcement agencies still in existence today work for the protect the people. That's all good and well, but you have a government here called the Government of the United States of America. First in right, first in time. So, how is it that the United States of America, as formed and governed by the Constitution for the United States of America, how is it that they are subordinate to the people of Colorado when they're both foreign to each other? So now you're going to be coming in and taking foreign servants under your wing of people of Colorado. Now, what does that make you? It makes you a tyrant. It makes you a dictatorship. So these 5 people, all of a sudden, now are the dictators of the whole country.
And human rights violators.
Human rights violators, blah, 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 blah. Then they come back and say the defendant's so-called grand jury is a fake grand jury. Really? Okay. They're a fake grand jury. So now the people on Manhattan Island don't have any authority to or right of self-determination or anything? How is that? So what does that make you? Makes you a communist. At the very least, they'll go to jail for being communist. So what's happening now, folks? You've got federal agencies actually going in there and protecting the state of Colorado, which is within the jurisdiction of the government of the United States of America. From 6 invaders that won't take an oath of fidelity to anything and keep switching sides, whatever is their, whatever is to their advantage.
Well, that's what I was also going to add, that nobody knows who they are because they don't even know themselves.
You got it. It says the Constitution for the United States of America disallows the United States from granting title nobility. It's none of their business. They're not a part of it. That's the Dutch charter. And people will come back and say, well, you're just charging with them. No, we're telling the truth. This is the way it is. And you can tell people like this all day long. 50 judges could get in front of them, foreign judges, and tell them here that, no, this is why you don't have it. And go down and explain step by step why you don't have any authority whatsoever or any foundation whatsoever. They'll sit and explain it to them right to their face, and they turn around and start going and do the same exact thing. They have a cause of action of trespass. So they trespass on the citizens of the United States Charter, start trying to enforce that charter, saying they're a part of that charter, and try to enforce it against the Dutch. Now, what does that do? It gives the Dutch the right to turn around and sue them and put them in jail for violating their human rights on Manhattan Island. You're in a legal box, folks. It's called an international legal box. Anything you do will be used against you in a court of law. Anything you say will be used against you because you're in a legal box, because you failed to declare residency somewhere and claim a nationality and run your own states.
Yeah, if I could jump in here real quick, I was reading the Chisholm, and there's another quote that helps support what we're talking about here. I'll read it real quick. It's only a sentence or so. If then it be true, this is Chief Justice Jay, if then it be true that the sovereignty of the nation is in the people of the nation, and the sovereignty of each state is in the people of each state, it may be useful to compare these sovereignties.
Hello, say that again, please. Please say that one more time.
If it be true that the sovereignty of the nation is in the people of the nation, and the sovereignty of each state in the people of each state, it may be useful to compare these sovereignties.
There you go. That's how it operates, folks. There it is, right there. I think we can end it right there. If you can't get that, and you don't understand that when you fill out an affidavit, it has to have an affiant in it, or you fill out a declaration, there has to be a declarant there, and that a beneficiary of a trust cannot grant anything to themselves because it's owned by the trust. If you can't figure that out, you're wasting everybody's time. You need to go back to the books, start hitting the books and reading and understanding what you're doing. Don't sit there and bash and call somebody else fraud and fake when you don't know that an affiant has to be in an affidavit. You really don't have much standing. And when you don't know that a declarant has to be in a declaration, and there's no such thing as a declaration of political status. It doesn't exist. You've been lied to. There is no Colorado state. That's a state within a state under the 1864 redefinition of a state that was illegally done by the Dutch. The state of Colorado is not a corporation. The Dutch did not have the right, through their representatives of the United Nations and lawyers, to create a corporation out of the state of Colorado. They had no right to even have their courts there. They have no right to have their representatives there. But if the people are not going to stand up and claim their own state and have an oath of fidelity to it, which is required, then what are you going to have? You're going to have all kinds of stuff, all kinds of problems. And you're going to be in this mess. So when somebody comes in and says, hey, we went back, got the original government, we revamped it to where it actually operates with the Secretary of State and the governor and all that. We're not subjecting you. What we're trying to do is get you a nationality so you can establish your own state and have your sovereignty the way you want and independence. You don't bite that hand. You don't crap all over those people.
People that try to welcome you back home.
Trying to get you back to your original state and give you what you want so you can get out of this nightmare out of the kindness of their heart, because this government's not really obligated to do it. You don't go and keep violating the law of nations and all this other crap and listening to everybody, every guru out there that doesn't know their ash from a hole in the ground, that has never studied a thing. We have a combination just with 4 or 5 people of over 120 years experience in dealing with this mess. Exposing that the federal is a corporation was exposed in 1970s by Eustace Mullins. It's nothing new. It was also re-exposed with the Dun and Bradstreet thing by a man named Laszlo Horvath, who happened to be on a call with me. He was on the computer and he was over at Dun and Bradstreet and realized that all the local entities were listed on Dun and Bradstreet as private companies established by the Dutch and the Bank of New York Mellon. He did that. You haven't heard from him, but he did that. How do I know? I was there. I was on the phone with him when it happened. Then we started spreading that out all over the place. This was back in 2006. So nothing new, folks. No, this is nothing new. We're trying to explain this to you. Stop creating states within states and claiming you're going to be in states within states, because you just gave the Dutch and you just violated their human rights, and the authority to come over and start hammering you. Because you're not establishing your own states. You're not claiming your own states. Let's put it that way. They're already established. And you're not, you're scared to death of an oath. It's unbelievable. You might as well, that could be the ghost of the century. Boo. It's an oath. And then they come back, well, the Christians were told never have an oath or no, what you were told was if you took an oath to keep it. That's what you were told. They didn't say anything about not taking one. It said if you're going to take it, you keep it. That's called the set apart spirit. Does anybody else have anything to say about this right now?
I think that about says it all. And, bottom line is, if you don't get up off your seat and do some reading or some research before you start, bashing the original government or the people in that government trying to help, if you're just parroting information, you could end up like these 5 people that we just saw on this video who don't know who they are, and they're trespassing, causing human rights violations because they're parroting somebody else's information without doing their information. We've provided facts. We have video, visual of what our resources are so that you can check them out yourself. All the dots have been laid out and instructions basically of how to connect all these dots. So what it's going to take for people to do is get up off your seat and start studying. And, that's all I wanted to add to that.
Stu?
I'll give them the case. Chisholm versus Georgia. CHISHOLM. Chisholm versus Georgia. It's pretty good case. And, I think one of the great points here was showing these folks how to read the judge's opinion. You read it under the, what's that cliche with the rose-colored glasses. If you read it not thinking, then it supports this I'm a man on the land, sovereignty, da-da-da-da-da. But if you read it from John Jay's perspective, who, by the way, was also a signer of the Paris Peace Treaty, then it opens a whole new light to what's really going on and what he's really communicating. Excellent case.
These guys have got all these companies that are doing business in the state of Colorado that they're not even registered in the state of Colorado, and therefore the state of Colorado has no jurisdiction over these companies. The people never got together, claimed themselves as the people of Colorado, signed that constitution, and put their government together to start demanding that these United Nations agencies start registering to do business within their state. They'd never done that before. So the state
Right.
of Colorado, see, and they're allowing all these lawyers to come in and do the exact same thing.
Yeah, and we can help them with that. If there's listeners that eventually come around or reach a turning point, we can help them with the establishment of the states.
Yeah, there's step-by-step instructions on how to form those.
Mm-hmm.
You can form those assemblies. We can start publishing your existence. There's a lot of stuff we can do to help. But the very first thing they do is, well, you're not our national government. We don't care what you think because you're a resident alien. You don't have any standing, period. So once you get that standing within your state, guess what? Now you're foreign to us. Now you're happy. Everybody's happy. You can stop all the crime. You can stop the pedophiles, and you can stop executive orders from being enforced in your state. You can start determining your own future, which is what we're trying to show you.
Could start wiping out poverty with this national currency.
Absolutely. They can even have their own state currency, and we'll make an agreement with them that they can trade with us. It's not a problem. We have the General Post Office. We keep the union together. That's what we do. The General Post Office keeps the union and communications together of states between states. It's international, national jurisdiction. All we do is run communications. That's our job. But guess what? We don't have any people in there that have claimed themselves as the people of the state of Colorado. What they did was they weren't anything. They were resident aliens, and when put up into a corner, they claimed themselves to be Dutch and part of a Dutch international charter and start trying to enforce it back on the Dutch. Violating human rights. That's how you get what they call a legal box. They boxed you in. The only way out, the right of self-determination. That's the only way out. Thank you for listening to the T-Row Show. I'm glad you tuned in. Hope you learned something today. And say goodbye, guys.
Good afternoon, folks.
See you next week.